Well, hello, everyone. For those of you I don't know, I'm Ina Fried, Chief Technology Officer. No, Chief Technology Correspondent at Axios. I just gave myself a much tougher job. I'd rather write about it than implement
You
it.
could be both.
No, don't give them any ideas. Anyway,
I thought you were breaking news.
yeah, no, that's your job. So with me is Kevin Wheel, the product chief at OpenAI, and I think one of the great things that I'm hoping you'll do is there's so much hype in the industry right now. There's so much, seems like the technology is genuinely moving faster than any I've covered in my 25 years. And at the same time, there's a whole hype layer. So maybe you can help me. And it's weird because in the past week, I saw, I hear from one, big AI company that we're going to have PhD level super agents by the middle of the year, and then I hear this CEO tweet that the hype's getting ahead of itself, and I'm pretty sure those were both Sam Altman. So where are we?
First of all, thank you for having me, and thanks everybody for coming. It's a nice cozy space here. It's going to get warm, I think. Look, I've never worked at a company like OpenAI before. Most of the places I've worked, and I thought I'd worked at fast-growing startups, places like Twitter and Instagram. Nothing is like OpenAI. Certainly nothing I've experienced. Most of the time you're building products, you're thinking about what kind of problems am I trying to solve, who am I building for, what problems of theirs can we try and solve. But you kind of know the technology stack that you're working with. Like databases are going to get a little faster or something, but more or less, the technology is what the technology is, and it kind of evolves slowly. That is not the case anymore, right? I mean, every 2 months, computers can do something that computers have never been able to do in the history of the planet, and it almost makes you rethink your product every time. So it is a really fast-paced, it's changing every minute, and the trends are they're pretty wild. Like when you compare. First of all, how many people are ChatGPT users? Right? I mean, just that's crazy,
Yeah.
right? For a product that launched 2 years ago, and when we launched GPT-3, if you compare that to where we are with take a model like 4.0 Mini, small fast model, price has gone down 99%. So GPT-3 was 100x more expensive than 4.0 Mini is. It was way dumber. Right? 4.0 Mini is way more intelligent, can do way more things. So these models are they're getting cheaper, they're getting smarter, they're getting faster, they're also getting safer. Our reasoning models, the sort of most advanced models that we have, like O1 and O3 soonish, are far safer, right? They're more resistant to being tampered with, and
They're safer on one metric, but then also they are getting better on the metric that I think a lot of people are paying attention to that's kind of scary, of being persuasive, of being able to convince people of things. And I'm curious how you are planning for that. Because again, they're getting better and smarter, but part of that means the answers they give, especially when they happen to be wrong, but also when used as directed, can be persuasive. How do you think about that? And I know you're the product guy, not the safety guy, but how do you think about that?
I mean, we put a huge amount of effort into making our models safe, and it's actually really good, by the way. When I say they're safer, what I mean is they do a better job of responding to post-training and resisting people's attempts to jailbreak, to get to make the models do something that goes counter to what they were trained to do. And in some sense, it stands to reason that as models get smarter, they should get they should get safer. They should get more resistant to jailbreaking. It's if I were going to try and get you to say something you didn't want to, it would be harder to do that than it would be if I were trying to do that to my 10-year-old. Right? You're a more sophisticated, and so the same thing goes with models. They respond better to their training. They follow their training. They're harder to jailbreak. That's a good thing. But we just put an incredible amount of effort into safety. We don't launch things until we are confident that they're ready to go out. We have processes that involve outside agencies, red teamers. I mean, we do everything we possibly can to get as much input from the community to make sure that what we launch is ready for the hundreds of millions of people and the millions of developers that are going to use it the minute that we launch it.
So the big buzzword these days is agents.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking agents, including y'all. But I hear agents, and it means a lot of different things. Sometimes what that means is something that's still giving information back to a human being, which to me is in the general field of chatbots. At the other extreme, you have, something that's largely autonomous that can take real world actions, maybe even talk to another agent, and the two of them are talking. What type of agents are we getting this year?
Yeah. So my favorite phrase in AI, which I think dates back to like Marvin Minsky or something, is AI is what still doesn't work. Because once something starts to work, we don't call it AI anymore, right? You don't look at your Instagram feed and say, "Wow, that's AI." You don't think about facial recognition as AI. Of course they are, but we're used to them, so they're not AI anymore. Agents are kind of like that, they're AI because that's the thing that still doesn't quite work, but we're just on the verge. I mean, for us, I think 2025 is the year that we go from ChatGPT being this super smart thing that can answer any question you ask to ChatGPT doing things in the real world for you. And the components of that are first and foremost reasoning. So our new reasoning models like O1 and O3 that rather than just sort of give you a snap answer like System 1 thinking, they can reason, they can build hypotheses, they can use what they know to test those hypotheses, and then use that. It's how humans think, and it's what you would do if I asked you a hard question that you couldn't immediately answer. So that's part of it. Same thing you would do if I told you to go book a hotel, right? You don't just know the answer. You would think through what am I optimizing for? What are my options? Okay, And then the other bit of it is multimodal. It's the AI being able to interact with you in all the ways that you would interact with another human. So it needs to be able to speak to you. It needs to be able to listen and understand you and hold a conversation. It needs to be able to see what you're seeing, whether that's you pointing your phone at something and seeing the real world, or whether it's looking at what's on your browser and understanding what's that. And if you have both of those things, you have a smart model that can reason and it can understand and see what you can see, then it can start doing things for you in the real world.
So I do want to drill down one level deeper. Like, what are the kinds of things you will be able to do this year versus won't in terms of, right now, it's great at plan my itinerary, tell me 3 things to do in Paris. It's not going to go book them. I assume that sort of thing doesn't seem very hard. Like, I can see that happening this year. Can you give an example of something that is a this year agent thing and something that's still probably further off?
When I think about my own browsing, say, because I think the digital world is kind of a natural place to start. I bet maybe half of the browsing that I do, I'm actually interested in whatever content I'm viewing. I'm reading an article that I'm excited to read. I'm watching a video that I'm interested to watch. And the other half is like me filling out forms and doing other stuff that I need to get done, but I don't really want to do it. That's the kind of stuff that should just be able to get done for you. You give
Doing
some
your
instructions.
Expenses.
Totally. Anything that involves filling out forms, getting reservations at a restaurant, that kind of thing, where you're just like, I know how to do this. I've got to go to these websites, wait for them to load, click on some stuff, wait for it to load. Like, we're going to be able to do that. No question. Things that'll come later, I think stuff that's more real world. I think these same things, reasoning and multimodality, are also what enable robots. And that's a super exciting thing to think about.
And you guys are kind of getting back into that.
I think we're still a few years away from that, though.
But OpenAI is once again investing, because in the early days there was a robotics project, and then that kind of fell to the wayside. But now hardware and robotics are both things you all are interested in.
We're thinking about it, yeah, because ultimately our mission is about bringing AI to everybody all over the world. We want to build AGI, and then we want to get it in people's hands because we believe that the world can be a better place if we do. It can be more efficient. We can see higher growth. We can all live better lives. And there's a lot you can do in the digital world, and that's where we're starting because that's the most natural place. But then there's a whole lot we can do in the physical world as well. And as we do all of this stuff, we have first-party products, and we have a huge developer ecosystem. And we're really committed to that. We have over 3 million developers building on our API. And so, as we launch products, we also open up those capabilities in the API for people all over the world to build. And so we want both of those things to happen. And we'll only be able to address, a fraction of the opportunity here. And it's developers everywhere that are, that know things we don't, that work with customers, that work in geographies that we don't. They're going to build and really distribute AI to the world.
And you mentioned the mission. Obviously, I think nobody would disagree with the mission of building AGI to benefit all of humanity. But I want to focus on that all of humanity piece. And I'm curious, what do you feel as the product person? What do you need to do to build products that benefit people in other parts of the world that benefit, individuals and workers? Because I see a world in which humans get great benefit, but it furthers wealth concentration, it furthers inequality, and I see both outcomes as equally likely, and it's sort of which way we push it. Some of that is regulatory and all that stuff, but what is the product? What part of that is your responsibility, and who are you bringing to the table as you guys are designing products to make sure that they're broadly beneficial and not narrowly beneficial?
I mean, I definitely view that as part of my responsibility. One of the things is like just to take something that exists today, language translation. Right? ChatGPT can natively speak something like 50 or 100 languages. We didn't teach it how to speak any particular language. It learns from its training, and I was able to go through Seoul and Tokyo and places like that and have full-on conversations with people with whom I did not share a single word in common. Full-on business conversations, by the way, just by saying, using our multimodal feature, and saying, "Hey, ChatGPT, when I say something in English, I want you to say it in Korean, and when you hear something in Korean, I want you to say it back to me in English." Put my phone on the table and proceed to have a full conversation as if I had paid like a UN-style translator, And that's, by the way, available for free to anybody who downloads the app. We also we launched 1-800-ChatGPT. Has anybody tried 1-800-ChatGPT? Few. All right, a little bit less. So if you're in the US, you can call 1-800-ChatGPT. More importantly, though, if anywhere in the world, you can WhatsApp 1-800-ChatGPT. So go and translate that 1-800-242-8478, I think, and add it to your contacts, and then WhatsApp it. And you've got access to ChatGPT in WhatsApp. Billions of people all over the world from every country on the planet are using that, and you've got AI in your hands. So we really are serious about trying to bring this to everybody.
And you mentioned the training piece. In many ways, that's one of the really controversial things is all of the engines have basically read kind of everything that's out there on the public web. There's a lot of concern from people whose jobs were creating a lot of that content. Sure, in my world, journalism, that's one area. The New York Times has certainly taken you guys to court. Other people recently, including Axios, have signed deals that we license your content. But I also think about artists and video creators and folks who these tools will empower the whole world to do amazing things, but to some degree on the back of their content. And I'm curious, how do you think about your responsibilities there? And I think you have a few products that you've been talking about that will allow creators to decide whether they want to be part of that. Where are things with that?
Yeah, I think if you stay back, you're not using the products and you're just reading articles, it all sounds really scary. And then if you go and use the products, you realize they're an accelerant to creativity, but you can't snap your fingers and say, we were talking about this backstage, you can't snap your fingers and say, make me a movie with Sora. You're not going to get a good outcome. It is an aid and an accelerant to human creativity. I was talking to a filmmaker the other day about Sora, and what he was saying was, if I have a creative concept for a movie, and say I've got this particular scene that I'm imagining, and I've got a bridge from sort of one view to another view, and there are all these different ways to do it. In the world today, I would pay, some like 3D effects group $100,000 to put together 2 different cuts that I could potentially use, and it would take them a month, and those would be my 2 choices. And in this new world, I can take Sora, which is our video model, which generates video on the fly from a description, and I can give it 15 different prompts, and 20 minutes later, I can see sort of the fruits of what those might look like, and I can get a sense for what kind of transitions I want. And now I'm not going to use Sora at this point to do the whole scene, but it's helped me creatively. And I've seen a bunch of different cuts that I might not have otherwise seen, and my movie is going to be better, and I'm going to get it there faster. I'm going to finish it faster because I can work more creatively with Sora. And that's how I think these things should work. That's certainly how we think about it. We are a product that in every way is an aid to people and their creativity.
And what about for the creator who says, fine, go build that product, but don't use my films to train it? You guys were going to come out with a tool, I think, last year. I don't think it's come out yet. Is that coming out this year that allows people to kind of say, I don't want to be part of that?
Yeah, it hasn't come out yet, so we'll have more to say soon.
So I want to, I think one of the things that's great about Davos is everyone's paying attention. I mean, everyone's here because AI is the topic. What are we not talking enough about? What should we be talking, again, because my feeling is the world you guys are building and a lot of the industry is building, best case scenario, is still going to have a profound change on the way we live, the way we work. What should folks in this room be thinking about that maybe we aren't thinking about? Like, because you get to see it, you've been thinking about, you go in the labs, you know what you're building. What are some of the questions that it starts to raise, again, beyond the sort of making sure the robots don't take over, that sort of thing. But really, again, if a lot of the drudgery gets done, that's going to open up a lot of opportunities for other things, but it also probably going to put a lot of pressure on workers. One of the things that generative AI is really good at is helping bring entry-level workers up to the midpoint, which sounds great, and in some ways it is. I also think that's going to make workers a lot more fungible and return more power to employers. So what are the those are the things I'm thinking about. What are the things you're thinking about?
So I tend to take a very pragmatic approach, and my number one piece of advice for people is just use these tools. Whether it's our tools, there are lots of other great AI labs out there. You can sort of reason abstractly about these things, and there are so many second and third and fifth and 12th order effects that it's really hard. Just use them. And you're going to understand ways to make yourself more efficient. You're going to have a much better sense for how these things really will impact sort of your sphere, your workplace, your friends, your family. And as these changes come, and they will come, because AI is, I think, really going to create profound change, really for the positive, I think. Certainly that's our mission. But if you're not using the tools, if you're not using the tools, it sort of may happen to you. And if you're using them every day and you understand and you're becoming more efficient, then you're going to be participating in the change. And I think that's where we all want to be. I also think that it will make every single person in this room, if you really work at it, more efficient, more effective at what you do. Even basic things like I have some friends who every day will take a walk home and talk to ChatGPT as they go. And it acts as this sort of infinitely patient, highly knowledgeable assistant. They'll go through their day and they'll say, okay, I had these meetings. One of my takeaways from this meeting was this. This person said that. I think I need to do this. Could you remember this for me? And they go through their day, and by the time they get home, they've sort of categorized everything. They've thought through it with this patient interlocutor, and they swear by it. So there are all these different ways that AI can add to your day, and in ways that you might not expect, and just being a part of it, I think, will be a really important thing.
You mentioned at the outset that you've been at some pretty impressive, fast-moving, big tech companies, Twitter and Instagram, to name two. What surprised you the most besides the pace of change? When you got into OpenAI, what were some of your first oh wow moments?
Well, one of them I said earlier, which was most places the technology is kind of fixed, and at OpenAI it's really not. In every few months you have this incredible breakthrough, and computers can do something they could never do before, and suddenly you can build new products that you'd never dreamed of, and maybe all the products you did build actually should change. So that's new and interesting. One of the things that means is that we need to work really closely, we on the product and engineering side need to work really closely with the research team. And that's kind of a new muscle, because the research team, it comes by its name, honestly. It's truly research. They are doing things and discovering things that we have, as humans, have never known before. And so it's academic research in a lot of ways, which operates very differently than a product and engineering team, with release schedules and timelines and goals. And so, meshing those two things is interesting.
And it's been bumpy. I mean, there's been quite a lot of turnover. A bunch of early people have left. how do you try to make your product team and the research team work, and why are we seeing still so many people head for the exits? Is it just because it's such a big field, or?
I mean, I have never worked at. I mean, the press makes a big deal about this. All due respect, I've never worked at a fast-growing company that didn't have people coming in, coming out, et cetera. But I think one of the things that we have learned, OpenAI started as a pure research company, right? The goal was to create AGI, but it was just this little research nonprofit. And what we've realized is that in order to actually achieve the mission, in order to bring AI to everybody, you have to do amazing research and build towards AGI, but you can't just be a brain in a jar. That doesn't actually solve the mission. It doesn't change people's lives. You've got to both build incredible AI, and you've got to bring it to people. And we do that through ChatGPT. We do it through our API. But it really has to be. We have to be both a world-class research organization and a world-class product organization, because it's the two together that actually make it matter for people.
Well, I would love to keep grilling you, but unfortunately we're out of time. Thank you so much, Kevin. Really appreciate it. Stay here for a quick word from our sponsor, and then Dan Primack will be here for our final conversation.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nicholas Johnston. I'm the publisher of Axios. Thank you for joining us again this year on the promenade at Davos. We've been here a couple years. It's packed. It's standing room only in here. There's a line down the street. The hottest club in Davos is here at Qualcomm House. So very grateful for our partners. Nothing that we do at Davos would be possible without the support of Qualcomm. They've been with us from the very beginning. They're hosting us in their awesome house today. Super grateful for all the support they've given us to make these incredible conversations possible. And my favorite part about this is it means I get to hang out with, I think, the coolest person to hang out with in Davos. He's the CMO and SVP of Qualcomm, Don McGuire, who knows about all the coolest stuff coming down the pipeline. Okay, Don, let's talk about the future. Come on up here. Great to see you. We've been having...
This is like following Matt and then that intro. Wow. I have a lot to live up to, man.
Well, let's see. Let's try.
A long
We've been
night
having
last night too.
A rolling conversation, I feel, about AI for the last couple of years.
Sure.
So let's catch up. How's it been going? So how has it been changing in the last year?
First of all, I want to return the compliment to the Axios crew. What an amazing partner you've been. We're so lucky to have you as part of the Qualcomm House Experience. So thank you for being here. The sessions have been amazing. Don't you guys agree that Axios programming is top notch, right? So congratulations to Axios.
Thank you, Don.
But yeah, I mean, wow, there's a lot going on. I mean, I was just listening to Matt and all the things that he was talking about from an OpenAI perspective. So, and then we kind of have a sort of not a different perspective, but we play in a different part of the value chain. So, kind of, I think we bring a unique point of view in our own way to things. And then as a CMO, right, where AI is, marketing and sales is one of the areas where Gen AI, right, is quickly impacting how we work, our efficiency, our productivity, how we create. So I have a lot of perspective just from an enterprise CMO.
So where to begin? Maybe go a little bit deeper on the specific theory of the case, the angle that I know Qualcomm has on how AI is evolving.
Well, I mean, look, I think one of the areas, because where Qualcomm's sweet spot is at the edge, right? So historically, the hardware and software that we have developed across our Snapdragon portfolio of chips, as well as outside of the Snapdragon product family, is really about creating intelligent computing everywhere in cases where people can use it on device and have all that computing power in the palm of your hand, and or on-prem, right? Whether it's in your home or on your campus or in your institution of learning, whatever that might be, without necessarily having to go to the cloud. Because as Matt talked about how from a technology perspective, AI is developing so fast and it's changing, and computers can do more and more than they couldn't do 2 months ago. That same thing is happening at the chip level. Like, our chips can do more and more. We can handle 100 billion models on device that just a year ago was like 30. So it's happening everywhere. This fast-paced innovation. So we play at the edge, and we bring, I think, a unique value proposition to how AI will scale. Ultimately, at the individual level and at the business level, because not everything needs to go to the cloud, and not everything can go to the cloud.
Well, when you bring that technology out of the cloud and put it in your pocket, then tell me how that will change the way you interact with the device. If the AI is on it and you don't need to go ping something else.
Right. Well, I think there's two things. One thing I think we should talk about is, there is a scenario where AI is the new UI, right? So we can talk about that. But I think, look, there's so many benefits to on-device or on-prem AI. One is privacy, right, and safety. So you control your inputs, how things are trained, and as you develop and use the tool, whether it's in the ideation process, the creation process, whatever, you don't have to worry about whatever that
sharing
IP
it with the
is
world, right,
going in somewhere where you don't want it to go, being used to train someone else's model, and then all of a sudden, your voice is somewhere you don't want it to be, your art is somewhere you don't want it to be, your knowledge, your code is somewhere where you don't want it to be, right? If 100 billion parameters can be handled on device, right, unless you're trying to solve, Einstein's theory of relativity, you can do a lot on device. It doesn't have to go to the cloud. So safety and security and privacy, one. Latency, right? For quick decisions, and I'll use automotive as a case, right? As AI infiltrates the car more and more, you can't wait for it to go to the cloud and 20 minutes later receive a response because you've run over the pedestrian, right? It has to be milliseconds. Decision-making has to be super fast. So we can enable that to happen on your car or in your car without having to go to the cloud. So, and that's important for how AI could be ultimately, because we think in your car could be a really amazing use case for how you interact with AI. Because there's a lot of downtime when you're driving, right? There's a lot of, you're thinking, you're driving, and you could be having a conversation. I 100% believe in what Matt said about both agentic as well as multimodal. Again, in order for AI to be truly useful.
All right, there's 100 of things I want to dig in first. I want to mention one of the latency issues about being in the car. I have an off-device AI, and I was going to take a walk late at night yesterday, and so I asked if there are wolves in the mountains, and I lost my internet connection, so I didn't know. When I reconnected, it told me there are not, and so here I am. But I 100% would love an on-device AI for that. What was really interesting to something you said, AI is a UI. Dig in a little bit more onto what that might mean as far as our interaction.
Well, I mean, we currently live in a world of apps, right? It's a linear experience that you're in, you're out, you're in or out, and they don't sort of cross-pollinate, right? So I think we believe that, there's going to be this layer, this agent, or several agents, quite frankly, that, going back to what Matt said, where we are today versus where we're going to be tomorrow, that you can cross-pollinate tasks and things that you want to do, whether you want to have your schedule, interact with your bank account, interact with an e-commerce site where you want to buy something, you want to pay a bill. You shouldn't have to go in and out of your banking app, and then go in and out of the merch site, and then go in and out of Shopify, and then go in and out of your, do I have enough money in my, and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. You should just be able to have your agent tap into that layer and just complete whatever you want it to complete.
This is an element, I think, of what we started to talk about last year, which was big, the agent AI type thing. And so it's almost even a more comprehensive thing now, where I'm not downloading a bunch of apps. I have one thing that will interact with all that. And when you bring the computing power onto the device, that's where that's possible.
Right, and how it ultimately manifests itself is not really up to us, right? We're going to be the enabler layer, right? But it could be one or multiple. He mentioned taking a walk at the end of the day, or that example where you're having a conversation, and then it's sort of taking notes, and it's organizing your things and everything. Well, today, you're probably looking at your phone and maybe making sure you don't run into something, and you're going into this app because you remembered this, and then you're going out of it. Then you're going into the next app and coming out of it. We believe that won't have to be the case anymore.
Do you have, so you mentioned, we've talked about smartphones, we've talked about automotive industry. Are there other industry applications for spatial compoting or things like that where you bring this? So what are some other examples?
Yeah, I mean, AI is obviously going to be really horizontal. We power the Meta Ray-Bans, obviously, with our Snapdragon XR and AR technology. The fact that they've already added kind of voice-based AI to the Meta Ray-Ban experience, I think just in one generation, the Meta Ray-Bans have just come so far, super useful, less creepy, and I also think that once the visual part of that comes into play as you're walking down the street and you're talking to either multimodal, again, you're talking to the agent and then you're looking at something, it sees what you're seeing, to Matt's point, and then it's populating information visually. Like, that's going to be an amazing
And that's
use
a
case.
processing power to go from
Yeah,
text to audio to full
Right.
frame of vision.
Yeah, well, you need the processing power to power the camera. You need the processing power to power your audio. Everything needs to be on that little chip that goes into those devices, right?
So the coolest part of these conversations each year is like the specific application. So much of AI is theoretical, but like you're talking about like actual products that exist. Like I can wear those glasses now. What else is really cool?
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
does
rather,
anybody
like-
else have the Meta Ray Bands? I think Ina broadcasted last year with the
Right,
Meta
she
Ray
wore
Bands
them, and
on, right?
now like
She
my
wore 'em.
kids have them.
Right, and I mean, look, you know, I had Gen 1, okay, a little heavy, a little thick, whatever. I mean, Meta Ray Bans Gen 2 just feel like Ray Bans. Right, that's an amazing in itself. They feel like glasses and not like a big set of goggles on your face. That's number one. Number two, they added, you know, the audio quality is amazing. I can listen to Spotify through my glasses. Don't have to have earbuds in, but you can't hear what I'm listening to. And that, again, amazing. On top of that, now the voice-based AI stuff, right, that they've layered on top of that, where I can say, hey, Meta, what am I looking at? Right, or hey Meta, there's a thing ahead. What is that, an accident? Is that whatever? That's amazing. And then again, we're going to add these visual layers on top of that. So that's,
I can speak
think,
from
pretty
personal experience, the audio version of that. My daughter got the glasses for Christmas and started playing Taylor Swift and was walking around the house going like, you guys can't hear this? And so now she doesn't listen to us ever again.
she tunes you out.
Bye to Lena. Let's take a step back, something just a little bit out of the gee whiz part of which I think is important about this on-device thing is cost and energy, right? Those are the huge concerns about like the explosion of generative AI. When you bring that down into the glasses, into the phone, how does it change the math on that?
Well, obviously, it's going to lower costs overall. It's going to lower dependency on a lot of energy. I mean, look, one thing we do really, really well is we do high performance at low power, right? We've brought that into every product category we've entered in. We just brought it into the PC, right? Our Snapdragon X Series chips that are going into an amazing array of PCs are as high performance as a PC chip can be at the lowest power, offering multi-day battery life and 45 TOPS of AI power, right? Whether you're buying a $600 PC or a $1,800 PC, right? So the power performance thing is really what's going to help from an energy efficiency perspective.
Not having to go back to these massive data centers for every single
Exactly.
query that can be done.
Right. And then there's
locally.
the water. There's lots of sustainability issues in the cloud-based AI world that just don't exist in the on-device or edge-based AI world. And I think that's a benefit, right? And again, that's going to help scale. And so it's really going to be a hybrid AI world. Not everything's going to go to the cloud, and not everything can be done on device.
Super interesting. I can't wait to be back next year to talk about this some more. We're about to get the hook, but what we love to do at Axios is end on one fun thing. Here it's one Davos thing. Don, this is not your first rodeo here in Davos. We've been hanging out here for a couple of years. So with your experience for newcomers, how do you Davos like a pro?
How do you Davos like a pro? Comfortable shoes with good grip.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of slips in my 4 years at Davos. A lot of head injuries, a lot of concussions. Hydrate the hell out of your body. And it's not just water, it's liquid IV or whatever it is.
Aperol.
Poured Aperol. Yeah, that's dehydration. But hydrate, because you're high up, first of all, it's dry, and then you're pouring, lots of stuff into your body, right, every night. So if you're a drinker, so like I am. So, so that's, I think, one thing that, those two things, comfortable shoes with good grip, hydrate.
Brilliant. Don, thank you. Thank you,
Right.
Qualcomm, for your partnership. Stick
Thank
around.
you,
I
guys.
get my friend Dan Primack up here for a big finish.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. As Nick said, my name is Dan Primack, business editor at Axios, editor of the Axios Pro Rata newsletter, which you can get at getprorata.axios.com. And I'm pleased to welcome Ryan Roslansky, CEO of LinkedIn. Hi. Good to see you, man. So Ryan, you and I first met when you interviewed me for a job at LinkedIn, like a generation ago. And I will say to everybody who's interviewing people, you never know what will impress you. You guys had an AC/DC pinball machine on your first floor at the time, and I kept thinking, if I came in every day early, I could play the game. But one thing we did not discuss, I am sure at all at that point, was AI. because it wasn't really a thing. And you guys recently came out with a report saying that you expected 70% of the skills we currently use in our jobs to disappear by 2030, which is not that much time. It's 6 years from now. Can you dig into that a little bit deeper for people here? And I know people do different jobs, but what sorts of skills are the ones that are going to disappear? It's the majority, but can you kind of help with what are we going to lose or not need?
First of all, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I'm wearing like very slippery, like non-comfortable shoes, so I missed the memo on that one. Obviously.
Do you need a liquid IV? We can hook it up
Yeah,
from
I
the
mean,
back.
that was great advice. Yeah, I mean, first of all, by virtue of being part of LinkedIn, where hopefully a lot of you are LinkedIn members, you may know LinkedIn is that blue app, hopefully that's on your telephone. But underneath that app is a thriving graph of information with 1 billion professionals, 65 million companies, 20 plus million jobs posted at any given time, and the connection of all that data, what we call the economic graph. And the reason I bring that up is because it gives us really interesting real-time views into what's happening across the global labor market at any time. And we really try and leverage that data, those insights, to help people understand, what the future of work is going to look like. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball, but we do have what I believe to be probably the best source of real-time, large-scale insights on the labor market. And look, without a doubt, to your point, Dan, I mean, the word of the day is, it's definitely changed. I mean, that's not a new thing, but it's 2025. I mean, we're into the second quarter of the 21st century now. And even if you take a look at all the job titles that exist on LinkedIn today, even in the US, 20% of them didn't even exist at all at the turn of the century. And it's just fascinating to think about that. But not only is that interesting, even if, your job...
Ryan, when you say that, is that just titles because there's not title inflation, but people like to create new job titles?
It's totally new categories of jobs. So social media manager, creator, data scientist, these things didn't even exist. And it's just it's about the rate of change that's happening in the labor market. Even more fascinating, though, even if you're not changing jobs, your job is changing on you. If you take the average, if you break down everyone's job in this room is a set of skills or tasks to be done. If you break down everyone's job into those skills or tasks, even going back to 2015, on average across all jobs, the skills needed to do the job have changed by 25%, which is just fascinating to see. And a lot of that is, I don't think that's going to slow down. To your point, it's only going to accelerate into the rest of the 21st century. But and AI is a big part of that. I mean, if you go back to just 8 years ago, 2016, the number, the amount of percentage of people whose profile has anything to do with AI on it, skills, et cetera, is literally up 20x. I mean, and it's not just the raw data or technical skills, it's the ability to use a lot of the existing tools that are, or the new tools that are out there right now. So that's like one, trend that we're seeing is just, the adoption of AI tools, AI skills at scale on our platform. Companies looking for AI talent is up 300% year over year. So the marketplace is one that's demanding AI skills. However, the one thing to keep in mind though as well is that it's really balanced out on what I'll call a set of human skills. So the most popular in-demand skill in all those 20 million plus job posts at any given time on LinkedIn is communication. Can someone communicate? We need people that can communicate, then create clarity.
But you don't think that's going to be something that in a lot of cases gets replaced by AI?
No, I think that you may have a
or if not replaced, very well
Yeah.
supplemented to the point where you don't really have to have that human skill all that much.
No, I think that an ability to get work done, to collaborate, empathy, adaptability. I think these are actually some of the most important skills that round out that skill set of what's going to be needed for the next decade or so of work.
When I speak to, I hear this as a white collar argument a lot, right? Which is, don't worry, the people are still going to be needed. There's layers. There's just going to be new tasks to do. The rote tasks will get done. It'll be easier. When you talk to some blue collar people about this who lost their jobs to different sort of automation, they kind of laugh at that and say, that's what we got told to. Why will what happened in a lot of blue collar work not happen in white collar work? I mean, in other words, are we not really whistling past the graveyard a little bit because we kind of like to think we're special?
I mean, I always think there's an argument, and I mean, historically, whenever you see a technological paradigm shift, there's a lot of excitement in the beginning. There's then a lot of excitement years down the road when the economy has shifted to adapt it. In the middle of it, though, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of distress. There's a lot of people whose jobs are, to what we said before, changing on them. So I don't think, you can't be naive to say that there won't be a lot of displacement or change. But, I do fundamentally believe that at the end of this, a lot of amazing new opportunities, roles, options will be created. I have just bringing it personally to myself, I have a daughter who is a freshman in college, just started this year. And, these are kids who are, super plugged in, and they're looking around and they're saying, am I going to have a job? What does the job market look like? And, the best advice that I give to her is just basically, look, number one, you have to be using a lot of these AI tools right now. Get to know them, use them, learn them. Even if you don't like them, be so open to what these tools are and how they work. You have to learn these skills. Don't say that it's something that's passé or we don't need it. Get super involved in it. Number two, to what I just said, earlier, I do think that really lean into the human skills, collaboration, adaptability, empathy, compassion. That's what will make you stand out, when you're out of your career. But last but not least, I think the most important thing, especially for this next generation, is there are all these opportunities that people would like to do to make the world a better place, be it around climate or healthcare or poverty. Being able to use AI in these tools allows us to think much differently than we ever have in the past. So embrace that towards amazing new things that we've thought weren't possible, but the data and the tools can start to unlock them.
Something else was in your report. It suggested that the U.S. is going faster than other parts of the world when it comes to AI adoption, not in terms of people putting it down as a skill, but in terms of adoption. Is that because, from your perspective, U.S. is actually ahead, or is it because we like to hype things up and we sometimes put the cart before the horse?
I don't really necessarily have a reason why. I mean, obviously, a lot of the AI skill proliferation is happening out of the Silicon Valley, out of tech companies, and then it's moving beyond that. So I think a lot of it just has to do with that's where still to this day a lot of technology and a lot of AI happens. It's kind of in the heart of Silicon Valley. It's not to say that AI skills aren't proliferating around the world as well. I mean, we actually see a huge lot of growth in India. We see actually, the most popular AI skill in Europe is actually responsible AI. So there's a different view at it. So I think it's happening everywhere, but just at different rates based on where technology is in those markets.
Can I just go back? So, and I don't know, when you give that advice to your kid, if this was, I don't know, 6 years ago, maybe your advice would have been you should get some basic computer programming skills. You should learn to code. And a lot of those jobs are they're not gone yet, but they're starting to get replaced. Are you guys seeing a reduction in the number of kind of traditional dev and coding jobs that are getting posted?
I mean, a couple things. One, I would still recommend even to my daughter to learn how to code, not because you're going to need to know how to code, but I think it's really important what coding teaches you, learning how to learn, learning how to think.
But then why code as opposed to learn art history?
Yeah, I think that's important as well. My wife was a history teacher, quite frankly. But I think that's one aspect. The learning how to learn thing I don't think goes away. I'll tell you something fascinating though. It's like the earliest sign that I'm paying attention to in the LinkedIn data. Companies that are adopting a lot of AI tools inside of their company, and it's across the board, but even GitHub Copilot, et cetera. Are the ones who are relaxing what has historically been necessary, technical degrees for software roles inside of the company. So basically, what that points to, if this plays out, is that the role of an engineer starts to change, where you don't necessarily need that historical coding background. You're going to need to know how to use the AI tools to create code, to create products and services. But there'll be a different set of skills that probably round that out. So I think that that's a really interesting insight as well.
What is a skill that a LinkedIn CEO today needs that they're not going to need or not use by 2030? Or are you you're not, are you the exception to this rule?
I'm not the one exception in the world now. I don't know if necessarily skills, the set of skills go away. I would like to think that in my role, as with any role, the more that I can learn and adapt and use a lot of these tools, the better off I will be. For example, LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft, as many of you hopefully are aware of. So, when I use, Copilot inside of Outlook right now, before I send Satya Nadella, my boss, an email, it's really helpful to make sure that I sound really smart, that I sound Satya smart before I send this guy, an email. So
do you ask the AI, what will Satya think of this email?
Some version of that. But I definitely don't want to look dumb. I don't want to have grammatical errors. I don't want to, I want to make sure that I'm connecting the dots. And I just think that that's going to continuously be an important skill for a lot of folks to learn how to use these tools to just do the job better.
You mentioned the fact that Microsoft owns you guys. I'm an M&A reporter. That's my day job. So I just have to ask, it's been a while since Microsoft acquired you. Has there been any discussion ever or at least recently, of spinning LinkedIn out independently?
Not that I'm aware of. Go back.
People change jobs and companies a lot. I don't know. Companies can change companies.
Yeah. Look, I think, at least from my perspective, I think hopefully history will look back on this is one of the very successful acquisitions in technology history. So a couple of things were very unique about this. Number one, around the time that we were being acquired, I think maybe LinkedIn was doing, roughly $2 billion a year in revenue. You fast forward, 7-8 years now, and at least, for the trailing 12 months, we're doing north of $17 billion in revenue. So from 2 to 17, I think has been a pretty remarkable jump for Microsoft. But most importantly, what was unique about this acquisition was the way that Satya ran it, which was that he said, we are going to keep LinkedIn completely independent. And you look at that as an employee when you're being acquired, you're like, yeah, right. I don't know what that means. I don't believe that. But, to this day, LinkedIn is, a completely independent company. I attend Satya's staff meeting every Friday, which is great, but that's the touch point that we have. And then we run LinkedIn independently. I think it's been a really, that's not how Microsoft has historically worked. Early on, even a decade ago, a lot of acquisitions, they had trouble making them work, but this was a really different approach to it. So all credit to Satya and his geniusness to think through it this way. But it's been really great for LinkedIn to grow. I think it's been great for Microsoft to have LinkedIn grow in that umbrella. And we just found a really strong partnership between the companies.
Talk a little bit. You've launched a couple. We only have about a minute or two. You've launched a couple AI tools, consumer-facing or user-facing AI tools, including one last week, this job match thing, which is supposed to help if you're a job applicant, show you which jobs you're basically going to get a call back from, and those that aren't.
If you think about the problem that we're trying to solve every day on LinkedIn, and any of you that are like system-level AI thinkers, will have an interesting perspective on this. There are 1 billion members on LinkedIn. Everybody is trying to figure out what to do with their career. What should my next role be? On the other side, we have over 65 million companies that are active on LinkedIn, trying to fill roles at their company, trying to figure out who will be the best person to do this job at my company. AI is a perfect answer to this problem. Historically, the way that recruiting works is the following. You have a recruiter trying to fill a role, and they start to sort the LinkedIn member base by the criteria of where did that person used to work, or where did they go to school. So you'd hear things like, oh, she went to Princeton, she must be good. Or he used to work at Google, he must be good. And filtering by that criteria would not only narrow down the labor pool, but it would always focus a recruiter's attention on the same set of candidates. What we're trying to do through AI is to actually break the job down from the job title into the actual skills or tasks that need to be done for the job. Then similarly, for 1 billion people on LinkedIn, we really know who they are, what they do, the skills that they're really good at, and leveraging AI to make that match to help people become more successful, more productive, and create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce.
Is AI, you guys obviously have a bit of a bot problem or have had a bit of a bot problem. Are you using AI to try to solve that, or are you going the old-fashioned way of kind of just trying to scrub it by humans?
I wouldn't necessarily call it a problem. I mean, LinkedIn is a real identity platform. Obviously, to the extent that we need to protect that platform, we use AI to do that. But we're really proud of the fact that I think we've kept LinkedIn is kind of a really kind of sacred, trusted place on the internet, again, with this focus of creating an opportunity for everyone in the global workforce.
Final question for you, Ryan. You talk a lot, LinkedIn talks a lot about how obviously people are looking for jobs. I think you guys said 60% of people currently on the platform are at least looking. You've been at LinkedIn for a long time. Do you plan to stick around for a while? Are you looking, or at some point, you've been there a long time by tech standards. You've been there a very long time. For somebody who's now a CEO. Are you among the 60%?
I feel like I am in my dream job. Every day I wake up and every minute on LinkedIn, almost 50 people in the world will start a new job because of the product that we built. We sit at the intersection, in my opinion, of not only doing well in business, but doing good for the world. When we build good products, people get jobs, they learn skills, they start companies, and I'm loving my job and what I'm doing. So,
Ryan, thank you very much. There's our program. Thank you very much for coming. We'll have more. Grab refreshments.